So back in 2020, everybody remembers what happened in 2020, right? The year that time forgot. COVID. One of the things that happened that year was we had the moving forward of what I would call, or what everybody would call, the cancel culture, right? As people were quote unquote woke, and other people that they didn't deem as woke were apparently asleep. So we had a lot of things that changed, right? So we got rid of Aunt Jemima. We got rid of Uncle Ben, which, hey, it is what it is, but I'm telling you right now, that's kind of sad when you think about it, right? Because Aunt Jemima, if you really want to think about Aunt Jemima and who she was as a person, and you look back in history, she's probably the original queen of personal branding. But that wasn't good enough. So we had to get rid of her. And then poor old Uncle Ben, I don't even know what he did, right? He just had his picture on a box and he made good rice. Now we have this other thing that came up during that time where this started, where somebody said, hey, we don't like the word cockpit. A cockpit. What's a cockpit? Right? Cockpit's the place on an airplane where the pilot and the first officer sit, right? And we don't like that word cockpit because it might be offensive to people, particularly in the LGBTQ plus community, which I don't have anything against anybody in that community, but who gets to decide why a word is offensive to a group of people? And what's the origin of the word have to do with anything anyway? We should probably talk about that first, right? What does cockpit mean and where did it come from? Well, it originated when they used to have cockfighting, which is throwing two roosters into a pen, and it was the pit where the cocks fought. And people thought that that small encapsulated area in an airplane or on a ship looked a lot like a cockpit. So that's where the word came from. Has absolutely zero to do with any piece of human anatomy. So I'm gonna say we want to call it a flight deck now, that's fine. We'll call it a flight deck, but we don't need to get rid of the word cockpit for some half-cocked reason. So before we start eliminating more things, let's go back and figure out what is it we're even really talking about here? And why are we doing it? Because to a lot of us, it just doesn't make any sense. It might make sense to you, but just because it makes sense to you doesn't mean it makes sense to me. And just because it makes sense to me may not mean that it makes sense to you. So that's a reason why you're getting that rant today.
Ray's Rants Realcast.